Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the podcast. This week, I wanted to invite Damien Cooper from Monkey Pixels to have a chat that kind of went into kind of like some of his failing filmmaker stories and some of the other interesting decisions he's made and some of the decisions why he's actually been, really going into doing YouTube stuff more than commercial filmmaking, especially during COVID and, the first stages of COVID anyway, should I say. So, if you do enjoy this interview, I'd love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. And if you did enjoy this video, please leave this video with a like. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to be subscribed. But I'm going to go and let you enjoy this interview, and I'll let Damien Cooper introduce who he is and what he does and what he's done, and I'll see you very soon.
So my name is Damien Cooper. I'm 34 years old. I'm born in Germany. I currently live in Austria. I actually went to school in New York, and that's where I spent the majority of my early 20s. I'm a professional filmmaker. I used to be a photographer. Now I still do photography, but mostly filmmaking. I run the business with my girlfriend. She's also a filmmaker, and we do all kinds of filmmaking, from music videos, commercials. And lately we focus more and more on YouTube, and that's kind of the goal for the future, to kind of be more independent from, traditional client work and just focus more on doing our own thing. But for now, we're pretty much doing all kinds of video work.
Cool. That sounds exciting. I mean, I love talking to other filmmakers and other people who create similar content in that respect as well. Was there any specific reason why specifically you wanted to kind of branch into YouTube a little bit more than necessarily being, doing client work in that perspective?
I mean, client work could be frustrating from time to time, and especially in 2018, we had this really big fallout with a number of clients. I mean, 2018 was just a mixture of bad luck, bad decisions, and we had one client in particular that completely fell through. They still owe us 60,000 euros. So we got completely stood up, and then we wanted to we had another client we wanted to collaborate with on the future, and that fell through. And that cost us a lot of money. And in general, a lot of client work experience was just not the way we wanted it to be. But I think one of the biggest reasons, besides independency, is just I like to create stuff, and I like to create stuff a lot, and I like to upload it right away. So I really like quick turnaround projects. So what I really don't like is just working on a project for weeks and weeks and then wait years to have the 3-4 minute video released. I'd rather have 1 to 2 videos released every week. That just, for me, it's just a better fit for, I don't know, my talents and my creativity.
Mm-hmm. And that's interesting. I mean, I think there's definitely a lot of merit to that. I mean, have you found that you've been able to take kind of the fast turnaround kind of mindset, I guess, and skill set from doing possible client work and then the bits you're doing with YouTube to really allow you to sort of push your YouTube channel a lot more?
Yeah, lately the problem is, and I'm kind of dissatisfied with that, because I mean, COVID-19 has definitely played a role in that, but we were actually doing our own projects and uploading them to YouTube and be creative. And lately we've basically just, have been doing tutorials and gear reviews. So I really want to do more personal projects, because exactly why I wanted to get into YouTube, I'm now actually doing the opposite, and I'm not really creating other than the regular YouTube videos. But in general, yeah, I mean, lots of our clients as well are rather fast turnarounds, like maybe 1 shooting day, maybe 2 shooting days, and then just more of the quantity rather than high quality with teams of 10 people working on some stuff in really high budgets. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. No, it's interesting to hear, because I think from my side at least, as a more commercial based filmmaker who's also very interested in doing YouTube and that respect, from me and what I've been following you for probably year and a half, something like that, somewhere around there, and it's been nice to sort of see you sort of be, that transition from I'm a run-of-the-mill filmmaker or someone who works with clients and does, commercial stuff to then sort of becoming more of a, I've been in that world, I've worked in that field, but I've now made the decision to go closer to YouTube and focus on doing YouTube as a more, because I think a lot of filmmakers use it as a kind of throwaway thought. In the respect to like, oh, I'm a videographer and I've been saying to all my clients they should have video content out, but they don't necessarily treat it as another part of their job or another important part of their job. Have you found that there's other YouTubers or other filmmakers who could or should spend a bit more time on their YouTube or really, really treat it as like, a key part of their job?
That's definitely a bigger question. Because as the beginning, like the idea of our YouTube channel was we are commercial filmmakers and we do real world commercial work. And then we wanted to do behind the scenes of these kind of stuff on our YouTube. But it was always meant to be second nature and just to be used as, an outlet. And then we kind of ran into problems with a lot of that because being in Austria, a lot of our clientele is German speaking, and there was no doubt in our mind that we wanted to have an English based YouTube channel. So we couldn't really release a lot of that stuff. And people here are also really shy when it comes to camera work. Plus, you just, when you start vlogging, when you start doing behind the scenes and everybody's speaking German, but you're catering to an English audience, that just poses a lot of problems. Plus, if you do like a lot of corporate work, they don't care about you putting that content onto your YouTube channel. So what I'm saying is it was really hard to combine our commercial work with our YouTube channel. And that left us with like not uploading for months at a time because we just didn't have any content. And the second thing is, yes, I would generally say like we are really good at what we're doing. So why not just make our own YouTube channel? But there's so much more to actually being successful on YouTube than just making great videos. And so a lot of people just can't do it. Like, for example, a friend of mine, and he's a really great videographer. He was one of my inspirations when I started with everything. And he's doing great filmmaking, but just YouTube never worked for him because he doesn't care about tutorials. He doesn't want to do like really behind the scenes. He just wants to create content. And sadly enough, that's not how YouTube works. If you just upload really high quality videos every couple of weeks or something, nobody will care about that because it's not searchable content, because nobody searches for whatever the title of your video will be. So unless you're willing to sit in front of the camera, talk to your audience, connect to them, provide value in some form, then there's not even too big of a point to it, I think. If you get what I'm saying. So it's like YouTube is really special. And I have this, and a lot of people don't really know how YouTube works and how the algorithm works and all that kind of stuff. So let's take Off Media, for example, Jacob Owens. I don't know if you know him.
I'm not, but he will be definitely somewhere I now look into. But yeah.
So like he's shooting like music videos. He worked on Netflix television shows. He's like this really big figure in the LA YouTube community. He also has a YouTube channel which has like 600,000 or 700,000 subscribers. But the thing is, what he did is he started making music videos. And he uploaded music videos to his YouTube channel, and they got millions of views. And because he had like an exclusive deal with this one rapper, and the problem is now he had like 700,000 subscribers, but they weren't all interested in filmmaking. Most of them were there for the music videos. Then he stopped doing the music videos and just kept, banging out content for YouTube. But the engagement rate was insanely low because obviously the people didn't care about like what the music video was shot on or what frame rates are. And then his engagement completely dropped, and then he quit YouTube basically after a while because he was so frustrated, like, why aren't people engaging with my content? And I was like, yeah, you did that to yourself because that's not how YouTube works. And then all people in the comment section were like, yeah, YouTube sucks because it just caters to all the vloggers and all the shitty content creators. And that's not necessarily how it works, but you need to have your audience and you need to have engageable and searchable content. So unless you're willing to really dive into that and make use of the YouTube algorithm and understand how it works, then YouTube isn't for you. So
No, definitely. I think that's important because I think there's a big difference, as you know, as we were saying earlier, about there's a big difference between being a commercial filmmaker and being a
exactly.
YouTuber. You know, they're separate. What advice would you give? Because I know some of my followers are now specifically looking to whether it's part of what they're doing or more as a, right, I don't want to in similar to you, they don't want to rely on client stuff, especially due to COVID and etc. What advice would you give to people wanting to start out on YouTube, or personally people who are starting to revive a channel or start a channel, or build up an audience or build up a following in on I guess on social media, but also mainly YouTube focus? What kind of advice would you give those
I mean,
people?
my number one biggest advice is consistency. I mean, it really boils down to that, like upload, 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 upload. The more quality content, the more often you can upload without breaks, because that was our biggest problem. Like we started YouTube 2.5 years ago. And I mean, I'm kind of frustrated that we're not as big as I wanted to be. But then again, like we had stretches of not uploading for 6 months, sometimes 3 months, 4 months, 7 months. And now since COVID, we actually started uploading 2 to 3 times a week, every week. So this is the biggest thing. And the next thing is you need to take it seriously. Otherwise, like especially if you say you want to build up like another leg for your business, you need to treat it as a business and not just as a byproduct. Because that's what I had a big problem with in the beginning. Because in the beginning, when you start YouTube, you're making zero money, but you're investing a lot of time and resources. So at some point I was just like, okay, I need to be as efficient as possible on YouTube because I can't spend too much time on this because this isn't making money and it's ridiculous. Like I have an hourly rate of like $2 or $1 an hour the way, I'm making money. But this is not how you should treat YouTube. You should treat it as a startup basically, because in the first couple of years, months, you will not see any money, but then it will get more and more and more. And eventually it might actually be something that far outreaches your client work. So take it seriously from the beginning and work hard if that's what you want to do. If you're just in it for the money because you just want to, make money on the side, it's not going to work anyway. I love doing YouTube. I love connecting with the community. I love talking about camera gear all day, all night, and just have an outlet for my creativity and, just upload stuff. So
No, that's definitely interesting to hear because I think I've, as COVID happened as well, I sort of found this kind of like thud, everything kind of stopped. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat. And, YouTube for me has always been something that, with the starting and stopping thing that you were talking about, it's something I really relate to because something which I've done with YouTube is like, okay, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I got busy with client work
yeah.
and then I stopped. Right. Or whatever, and that's completely my fault, but it's more of a, the more I hear about it, it's about momentum and more about consistency, the more that it makes sense in the respect to like where you look at it and how you look at it in that respect. Have you had any videos that specifically do really, really well that you didn't expect to do really well?
Not really. Like the ones that went viral, so to speak, I kind of expected them to be, and like our best perform. Yeah, I do have actually. So the best performed video is actually iPhone 10 versus $10,000 camera. So that has like more than 200,000 views, which is our best performing video. And then like how much should you charge as a videographer? And these were all the kind of videos that I expected to do well. But then, like, I think our third or fourth best performing video is like just a video that I had when I had back in the day when I had the Sony A9. And I just went out with my girlfriend and just shot like a 2 minute her walking around video. And like this still gets a lot of views every month. It's more the other way around, but I had some videos that I thought that were going to be sure bangers and they just didn't perform well at all. Um, but yeah, for us, and like a lot of people, like when I actually look into their success on YouTube, and they had like a lot of them had stories like, yeah, I was uploading a lot of videos and then I uploaded this one video and got like 1 million views and then I got so many subscribers. And that just hasn't happened for us. It was basically a steady grind from the start, uploading, get like a little bit of subscribers every video. but the whole like going viral thing and just getting a massive amount of subscribers just hasn't happened for us.
Mhm. No, definitely. I think in reality, that of course there is, outcroppers, or there is, times where videos will do really, really well, and then it will cause you to snowball. But I think in reality, it's actually going to be you just put a lot of work in, a lot of time, and you just put out a lot of valuable content, and then you may have got 5 or 10 or 15 or 100 subs, depending on where you are in YouTube, in the respect to how big your channel is, but you got a percentage of subs from that each video. So it's like, 1% or
Yeah.
2% or etc. So you just keep grinding away till you eventually grow, and then the momentum builds. I think from what I've seen anyway, watching channels like yours and others that are growing and are gaining momentum as well. And I think that's something that those of you, or those people who are listening, who are looking to really invest in YouTube as whether that's a side thing or whether that's the thing that they want to do, I think that's really important to understand from the start. To, as you said, treat it as a job, treat it as your second job, in that
I
respect
mean,
as well.
yeah. I mean, I said,
How?
sorry to just add something to the topic.
No, it's all right.
I know I said that like treat it as a job, but then again, it should be like a mixture. It should be like you should take it as serious as your job when it comes to professionalism and your dedication. But then again, in terms of expecting it to make money, you should definitely treat it as a pure hobby in the beginning, because it can get so frustrating. Like especially when you take it seriously and you put in a lot of work, and like literally 50 people are gonna click on your video, nobody's gonna engage with it, and that's just bound to be happening. And I mean, it's really hard not to compare yourself to others. And that's what we did a lot in the beginning too. Because then, like, I was watching this one guy, a filmmaker, and it's like how I started with YouTube. So I uploaded my first video and I got 30,000 subscribers the first night. And I'm like, great, I'm doing this for over 2 years and I have like 16,000. And there's a lot of stories out there like that, like how I made 100,000 subscribers in 1 year. And it's like, yeah, great. But that just usually doesn't happen. So in the beginning, it's a grind. You will be uploading and you will put out really good work and nobody's going to see it. Like, for example, like still, we have 16,000 real subscribers and a lot of our videos just get around 1,000 views. My girlfriend just started her channel for her filmmaking, for her figure skating content. And basically, her first video got like 1,700 views. And all of her 4 to 5 videos that she has get over 1,000 views, and she has like 100 subscribers. So depending on what kind of stuff you do, and especially filmmaking is so oversaturated right now, and there's so many people having channels. Um, it's it's bound to be frustrating in the beginning, but that shouldn't demotivate you. You should still keep going and uploading.
Mm. No, definitely. And I think it's about, for the creator to really find a niche or find a thing which they can have a specific voice in, or become, specifically, to gain respect within the community and collab with other people around their same size. But then also understand that it's going to take a long time, right? And it's not going to just be, of course, there's situations where people get 100K overnight and etc. Of course, they happen, but it's like the 1 or 2% of people who actually get that lucky, quote unquote, in that respect. So don't expect that, I would say. Would you? So we talked about COVID briefly, but has COVID kind of been part of the decision why you went to YouTube, or were you kind of already? I think I already know the answer to this, but I'll let you go into more detail. But was COVID like the main reason why you went to YouTube, or were you looking to do that before and it was just kind of the cherry on top?
I mean, as I was saying, we've been doing YouTube for over 2 years now, and it was always the goal to dedicate more resources to YouTube and just try to make this a full-time thing. And the problem, like I already said, is like even now, I mean, it is making money right now, like an accumulation of all things is a grind, but it's just still not making enough money to even make a living out of it, like not even close. Um, so before that, I was still like, okay, I need to do something else. Maybe I should like try to get more clients because this is like my time better spent. But it was always the long run goal to actually do YouTube full time. And when COVID-19 hit, there was like no distraction. There was like nothing else to do because I knew I couldn't literally do anything else to gain money, to make money, to focus my energy on, to try to get jobs, to whatever. So that's when I started like saying, all right, now it's YouTube. And then when I started uploading 2 to 3 times a week, I actually and treated it like a full-time job because there was literally nothing else to do. It also changed my mindset towards YouTube. And I was like, all right, maybe it's actually a thing here. Plus, like when looking at your YouTube statistics, after uploading 3 times a week for like 2 weeks, even our numbers went up like over 140%. Like you always have these numbers compared to the last 30 days, and everything went up from our revenue, from our subscriber count, from everything. Like everything went up like over 100%, and that obviously showed me that the more work you put in, the better results you will get. And that's kind of like turned a switch in my mind to actually say, all right, if we can financially actually survive it, let's try and make YouTube a full-time thing.
Yeah, so then when you come out, or when our new normal is, a thing that we can go out and do, it will then allow you to use YouTube as your main avenue of making money, and your main business venture in that respect. Have you found it kind of creatively for like opened up what you can do creatively in respect to YouTube, in the respect to it's giving you more ideas that you now want to do?
Not really. I was always the kind of guy that just went out and did stuff. So YouTube hasn't really changed that. I'm still like, even before
Hmm.
YouTube, I always wanted to just, create stuff for the sake of creating stuff. And I didn't really have YouTube in mind back then. Plus, we were really lucky in the beginning because we got like one of our first jobs ever after starting the business was for a startup, and they wanted to hire us for 100 hours a month, sorry, to create content for them. But we had like almost complete creative autonomy, so we could basically do whatever we want. So I always had the chance of just being creative. Um, and like I said, like even it might actually even be the other way around because now I'm just talking about gear instead of actually creating stuff because I'm now like a little bit in this, okay, I need to upload, I need to put out stuff, that kind of stuff. Instead of just really focusing on like creating stuff I want to. Um, but yeah, this is definitely going to change. So I'm definitely going to start creating more meaningful stuff, so to speak, and be creative. But it's frustrating. Like I said, like whenever like I upload a video about this camera versus this camera, it gets like way more views. And then just uploaded a music video, for example, that we shot like 2 to 3 years ago. And actually that was one of the first music videos we ever shot. It was in LA. It was kind of cool. I liked the video. It got like 300 views. So it's just I can't lie, like it shouldn't be about the views, it shouldn't be about the likes or whatever, but it is somewhat discouraging when like literally no one interacts with your videos, nobody watches them, and then you spend so much time like actually, making cool video and nobody cares about it.
Mm.
So
I think personally, it's one of those things where there's certain videos like that music video, for example, that you do that you were just talking about, where it's more about this is a personal project that I'm really really proud of, and this is really pushing what I can do creatively. But it's not necessarily like this is gonna pop as a
exactly.
video, right? I think unfortunately because of the way the kind of tech and camera YouTubers are at the moment is very kind of we're going to talk about how to rig a camera. We're going to talk about what kind of camera I use, why, blah 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 blah. You know that kind of content is something that people eat up. I'm not really sure why, because I would say for me anyway, having both I think is important. But personally, for me, I would find it. I was looking back on your channel a little bit about when you were doing behind the scenes on some short films you were making when you were in LA, and or Las Vegas, sorry, and that for me was very very interesting because it really showed it wasn't about I'm shooting on a XYZ, right? It was more about the actual process of how do you logistically go about doing something that you want to do, and then what are the problems that you run into, and then how do you actually tackle those problems. So personally for me was that is that I guess the question there is that content that you firstly want to create, and secondly how difficult is that content to create?
100%. This is the kind of content that I'm actually like I want to create. Still
Mm,
do, and this is going to be more on our YouTube channel in the future too. Because this is also like I love like talking about gear, rigging out gear, but I want to use gear. I actually want to make use of that gear. And that was always the idea. So, for example, the first gimbal review we did with a Crane 2 video, and instead of just having my girlfriend walk around the park, I actually wanted to shoot something with that gimbal. So we actually got a dancer. We shot a dance music video in a really cool location, and that's precisely what we want to do. So hopefully we'll be getting the C300 Mark III next week, or actually this week, and then we'll be able to shoot a music video on the weekend with that camera. So actually make use of that camera in a real world scenario and actually like have a real person that is an artist to shoot a music video with, and then do a behind the scenes on that. And it shouldn't be just about the gear. It should be around like everything, like you said, like problem tackling. And then comes the second part. Also, if you've noticed, like a lot of these things we did were in Las Vegas, in LA, and or in Abu Dhabi or wherever. And that is my biggest problem. And maybe it's me, it might be me, but I moved to Vienna almost 10 years ago, and I'm not Austrian. My girlfriend is. And it had nothing to do with filmmaking that I moved here. And I always wanted to leave again, to be honest. Um, because for me, the filmmaking community here is just non-existent. And it's really hard to like do behind the scenes, do vlogging, do all that kind of stuff if literally there's no one to film behind the scenes with or to interact with or vlog with. And like I said it so many times, like on other podcasts, it just might be like bitching about something that just is in my head, but I'm 99% sure it's not. Just whenever you just pull out a camera in Austria or in Vienna in particular and walk down the street, like people stare at you like you have a weapon in your hand. Like you just, I had people come up to me where I was filming like a ball going over water, and I had all of a sudden I had like 8 people come up to me. Did you film my child? Did you film? I want to see it on your camera that you didn't film my child. Or I wanted to do a hyperlapse in a subway, and I pulled out my camera, and there were like 2 people jumping in front of the camera, like, "Hey, you can film here. I don't want to be filmed. I don't want to be on camera," and all that kind of stuff. And I have like 20 of these stories. Where people are just so like self-aware and not wanting to be filmed here. So it's really hard to actually do stuff. Plus, although a lot of people are not necessarily like they speak English, but not for my standards, not well enough. So, and I have like a lot of stuff like this. For example, I had a personal project where I really wanted to shoot something cool, like a fitness portrait kind of video with a friend of mine. And like we did an interview setup, and the interview setup, it was so freaking bad, like because his English was just not good and like the story was shit. I'm sorry. I never actually released that video, and it was really frustrating because I had that like numerous times that I can't really create the content I want to create because I don't have any actors, because they need to speak fluent English, otherwise like what's the point? I don't have like I was talking about a guy, and there was this one sentence that is stuck in my head forever now, and that is, "Yeah, I love being in the United States." He was talking about playing poker. He was like, "Yeah, I love playing poker in the United States and a poker table because everyone has a story." And that is something that just resonated with me because it's so true. Like, if you've ever been to the States and you talked about like everybody has a story and they're so passionate to tell you about it, and here it's just not like either people are just so closed up and don't want to share their story, or they're just like living. I mean, I have lived in the United States for a couple of years, and it's just different. The mentality of people, everybody's just trying something, hustling, taking risks. And here, especially in Vienna, people are so risk averse, and usually they just live their regular 9 to 5, and that's just it. So it's like really hard to actually create stories and short films and emotions with that kind of limitations. So that is something that is bugging the hell out of me for the last couple of years and months, and I'm always trying to move, but it's not that easy. So
Mhm. Yeah, of course. No, I mean, I definitely, relate to the whole like, what's this guy? He's walking himself down the street for me. What the hell? What is he doing? Right? Like in the UK, that's kind of the
mhm.
same, right? I think it's a little bit like it's not as kind of oh, you're filming my kid, that kind of thing. But it's more kind of just people are just, I guess in some ways they just take the piss in some ways, but also it's just like, what are you doing? You know, that kind of thing. Like I've even noticed it. I mean, there's not, there's I think a larger UK
Hmm.
as a whole. There's a larger community for filmmakers, I would say. But for me locally, there's not. There's not many anyway. It's mainly just photographers or that kind of thing, which is fine because there's kind of some middle ground there. But it's not the same in that respect. Where, if you could choose anywhere, obviously I'm sure you've thought about this already, but where specifically would you look to move possibly? Like, is that something you thought about? Is that something you planned? Is that something you
I
know?
mean, the first choice was always the United States, but like giving the whole
Mm-hmm.
situation with visas and work permits and residentships, it's just nearly impossible. We actually went to an immigration lawyer 2 years ago to actually try to make that work because we were working for a company in the States that were doing exactly what we wanted to do, like working with NFL players for like a marketing company. And they actually offered us the job to just be their exclusive content creators for the entire agency, but we had to have a visa. So we wanted to move there. It's really hard, really expensive, and having 2018 and like losing so much money, it was just not possible financially to actually move there. Although there would have possibly been a way. So yeah, the States is definitely goal number one, still is. And if it wasn't for the States, I don't know, just like obviously UK would be better in terms of people actually speaking the language, and that goes a long way because like my friend, like he's from London or like London area, and like when he does like fitness
Mm-hmm.
videos with like some fitness guys, and he's like really great
Mm-hmm.
emotional voiceovers, and it's like, where do you get these voiceovers? Like, yeah, it's just a guy. You just send me a WhatsApp, voice to speech, and that's it. And like whenever I tried that here, it's just like it's horrible. Um, but the weather in the UK, I just can't stand. Like it just that's definitely a no go. So we were actually thinking about moving to Barcelona, just for the sake of the weather, because I mean
Mm-hmm.
Vienna is great for the weather actually compared to like a lot of other cities. But then again, like
Mm-hmm.
it was always my dream, like living by the beach, just having palm trees in front of your doorstep. And I think the language thing could be actually even worse than here. But I don't know, that's obviously doable since it's the European Union. And other than that, it's just like, I don't know. I wouldn't know where to find like a better filmmaking community with, native English speaking. There's hardly any native English speaking countries other than Canada, United States, Australia, and the UK, pretty much. Um, so I don't know. Like my girlfriend still went back to figure skating. She's a professional figure skating skater, and now she's doing her last season as a figure skater. So now she's in Italy most of the time. But when she's actually done with it next year, then we're probably going to move somewhere else. I don't know where. We'll see.
Okay. Well, I mean, personally, I look forward to finding out where and seeing where that
Hmm.
travel is. In that respect, do you think there's like because some people I know have like a dream project, a dream video, a dream, for example, like I want to shoot a music video for this person, or I want to do a commercial for this brand, or I want to work from a sponsorship perspective with this company. Do you have kind of a similar place, a similar brand, a similar business, a similar company?
Not really. Um, like I was always a big sports guy. So this was kind of like always my dream come true. Like we were working with NFL players in LA, and we also shot a documentary about a UFC fighter, and being really interested in MMA and all that kind of stuff. That was actually kind of a dream come true if it would have gone the way we wanted it to, and not the whole not being paid, like actually ending up losing 20,000 euros ourselves kind of situation that we had. So that was kind of like, I don't know, it was just really I don't know how to say it, like disappointing is not the right word, but yeah, and that was kind of like, yeah.
Do you think that's hurt the, so say for example you got a email tomorrow saying, yeah, I'd love you to come and shoot this kind of NFL thing or this fighting thing, or and it was that kind of thing, do you think you would even think about it because of the situation? Obviously you were burnt last time, so do you think that's kind of left a lasting impression on the likelihood you would accept a project like that, or a set of
It depends
projects
on the
like that?
conditions. I mean, the last project that we actually got burned on, like obviously, like in hindsight, a lot of people say like, how did you even invest that much money without getting paid, blah 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 blah. And this project was like really individual. Like usually we get paid 50% up front, we have a production contract, yada yada yada. And but the thing is, like, he had a title fight, and the title fight got moved prior a complete month, and that was like unforeseen by anybody. And then he just called us like, hey, can you be in LA in 2 days or in 3 days time, because like everything got moved forward. And obviously there was no chance to get us to 50% up front. So I took a leap of faith, invested 5,000 in flights, hotel, rental car, all that kind of stuff. And then I was already like dug deep into the whole thing when it turned out like, all right, it takes more time to actually get us the money. But in general, I would just say like nothing without getting the 50% upfront. And I would definitely not invest a single cent into any project. Um, it doesn't matter how good it is. Like you could tell us like, hey, you want to tour the world with Will Smith, you just have to pay for the flight up front. I probably wouldn't do it because I don't even have the means for it. And I literally nearly went bankrupt after this because there were like 2 to 3 jobs like this where I haven't gotten paid, and I actually invested a lot of money and got burned. So I'm in no financial situation to actually do that kind of stuff again. Um, but overall, I'm an optimistic person. I would still do it as long as I see money up front. Otherwise, I just can't. The problem is, sorry, like because we had a similar situation, because obviously working with the UFC or NFL was my kind of dream project, but then somebody approached my girlfriend for a similar kind of dream project of hers. But it was kind of the same thing. There was no money up front yet, and we got into a huge fight because of that, because she still wanted to do it, and like giving my experience of that kind of thing, like we can't invest money into this even if it's just a flight somewhere or a hotel somewhere, or even if they pay for the flight and hotel, but we can't work for free for weeks without getting paid. So yeah, we actually ended up in this situation, and right now it's kind of on hold, so I'm not sure how it's going to be. Yeah, but we'll see.
No, definitely. I think that there's, I think for me personally anyway, there's, lessons that can be learnt from that specifically. But I think getting those at a lower cost and a lower threshold, getting those jobs that you're going to be burnt on at a lower threshold is obviously great. But also definitely, I think there's, for obvious reasons, going to be sort of lasting effects of that. I think that there'll be difficulties. So I think anyone listening and anyone who's really starting a production company, there's sometimes when you have to be very I use the term brutal about saying, look, it's either this, or the job doesn't happen, right? Like for example, just how I operate is, if you're not in the same way to you, if you to have the day booked, I have to get 50% in my account. If it's not in my account, the day's not booked. Right? I can say, great, that day's cool, that's fine, but until the 50% is in my account, the day's not actually set in stone. In that respect. And I think that's very important to kind of develop that discipline, and also because I think then it gives you a lot of, I think you're then sort of known and you have a lot of respect from a video production company as well, because you'll also then, but it's that difficult balance, isn't it, between you really want to kind of help those people, or you're doing that person a favor by having that leap or having that kind of faith in them that they're going to pay. But at the end of the day, especially when you're talking about the kind of money you were talking about, there's a lot more risk on the line. in that
That's the
respect
thing.
as well.
Like, I totally agree with you, but I also say, like, because a lot of people like, hey, what's your advice on not being burned again? What's your advice for other filmmakers having the same thing? And honestly, like, I can't tell you it's black and white because it's not. Like, I feel like almost like all of the jobs that we had and still get are somewhat like, I don't know. You have to really deal with them on an individual base. Um, because I rarely had a job where it's like, hey, I want to book you for this and this in the future. Send us a contract. Here's 50% upfront. Go ahead. I haven't really experienced that. It's always like, you kind of want to develop a relationship with your client, and you don't want to be that guy that just asks for money straight up, because like it's ridiculous that it even is that way. But a lot of people are like that. It's like really like, okay, that costs us 50% upfront, blah blah blah, and they're like, oh, you're just talking about money, blah 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 blah. Even corporate companies, it's insane. It's just but like, for example, because what we were saying is 100% true. But then again, like, let's say you barely make rent, and then like somebody approaches you, and like you just don't want to risk. I mean, I'm not currently in this situation, but I've been in this situation, and then it's really hard to like set these rules. um Another example, uh a friend of mine called me up and is like, hey, I have these friends and they need a videographer right now, and they have everything set up already, but it's like, really, it has to happen now. I give you the number. It's like, okay. So we had a call. They're like, okay, so we set everything up. It's like an automobile shop somewhere, and we already got the Ferrari, we already got the Lamborghini, we wanted to shoot everything, but our video guy fell through. Can you be here in 3 hours? It was like almost an hour away from Vienna. And yeah, we pay you, I don't know, it's like a 4 hour shoot, we pay you $1,500. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So there's obviously no way in hell that they can like wire me 50% of the money up front or whatever. And I actually had another job on that day, and I was like, can we do it tomorrow? Can we do it the day after? And they're like, no, it has to be today, because we already have all the cars, we have everything set up. And so I was in a decision where, what am I going to do? Like, try to postpone the other job that I already have, or, just say no. So what I actually did is, like, I had my girlfriend shoot the other job alone, and I actually went to the job for the, for the car dealership. And when I went there, there was nothing set up. Like, it wasn't even anything planned. Like, the two dudes, they wanted to pitch an idea to the guy from the automobile shop, so that we maybe could shoot something. And they weren't even speaking German or English. They were speaking some other language, and I couldn't even. It was a complete disaster. I spent 3 hours there trying to, communicate with them on different languages, and then I went home for nothing. Like, I went there, I didn't get paid, I didn't shoot anything. Um, everything fell through. But in that kind of situation, like, what is the advice you would give somebody? If like a friend of you calls you up and they tell me on the phone, like, they have everything set up, grab your camera, come here, you get paid $1,500, it's an hour away, it has to be now. Like, what are you going to do? Like, there's literally nothing else you can do than just, either say no or just take a leap of faith and hope that it works out. But for me in the past, it never worked out. It was literally every time. I have like so many stories that are like that or similar to that, where I ended up being the idiot that just, I don't know, lost money or just didn't get paid.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And I think that's, it's one of those things where you sort of need to be aware of the risks. You need to be, I sometimes go, oh, this could probably not become anything, right? Like, even when I have a person who seems pretty serious about quitting a job, and even when a job's like in pre-production and it's gone into pre-production, and even kind of when I'm like about the day of shooting, I'm always like, yeah, this job may not actually happen at all, or etc. Because unfortunately that's life, right? But I think that for people who are getting into video production, and this kind of leans back to what we were talking about earlier, about having other means of, supporting yourself in regards to like YouTube or stock, or, I could say here and say 1,000 different ways about other methods of like making money through filmmaking. But, I think that it's just one of those things where you just have to sort of trust your gut, and make those instinctive decisions, and then sort of learn from them, but also be open to things kind of blowing up in your face, but also still trying to make the most out of it, because at least you got a story, or at least you got experience, or whatever,
Exactly.
whatever that may be in that respect. So there's definitely a lot of situations, unfortunately, where it's yeah. Oh, actually, you know, um, and sadly, that's something that because I end up talking to quite a lot of filmmakers, but I hear this story over, and not necessarily the exact story, but the similar kind of thing, over and over and over and over again. And that's why I'm and of course by no means am I saying with every client, what's the history with that client and me, right? Have I worked with them before? Have they fucked me around or not? That kind of thing. Even if it's just something simple like, oh, they showed up late, or something got delayed, or whatever it may be, or something simple like, oh, payment was late, or whatever, right? These are all little notes that I make for that client, just so then I can sort of make a judgment call when they ask me for basically, in the story you told, it's basically a favor, right? That's basically what you've been asked for. It's like, hey, I've got this theoretical, but I need a favor, and you need to make a decision right here and now,
Exactly.
right? And the best advice I would give to anyone listening is, if you're in a situation like that, think back. If it's a client you've worked with before, how has that process worked? Have they paid up on time? Have you had to chase them? Has everything gone to plan? Has there been a plan? In some cases, there's not a plan. They say you have a plan, you show up, there is no plan. You have to make the plan. Have you found that your job as a videographer has actually become your job as a director and a cinematographer and a name and any other hats you want to put on, kind of situation, more times than just show up and do and film?
Always. I mean, I've literally can't remember. I mean, yeah, we had like 1 or 2 jobs in our entire career where it was literally like show up, film, and go. Like everything else is just basically, and that's just the clientele that we have, and it's just do everything. But I think that's part of the problem, because if you're in that kind of realm, like like middle-sized companies, or even like self-employed people, artists, that kind of stuff, then you need to do all that stuff by yourself. But then again, that's also the way I want to do it. Like, I don't like being, all right, that sounds dumb when I say it, but I don't really want to be just like one small part of a bigger project. Like, hey, this guy did camera. I did that once, like on a music video where I was basically doing sound, and I hated it. It's just like, basically, it doesn't matter like how good the project is afterwards. It's just not mine. It's just not, like, for example, I don't like when I shoot something and somebody else edits it, because then it's not my video anymore. So I like doing everything from pre-planning to shooting to editing to sound design. Because then it's like, I mean, when I do it with my girlfriend, then I still consider it being mine, because it's just like 2 of us and we're just doing it together. But like, we shot music videos in Las Vegas with a friend of mine, and he directed and shot most of it, and we just were like second shooters. And I don't know, it's just like I never released that music video anywhere, because it's just not my video, although I just been part of that. So yeah, I definitely found myself on basically every shoot where I've been doing everything.
No, definitely. I think that's definitely one of those things where I think it's one of those expectation things, though. Like, going into a project, I think it's more like, if you expect it to be like your thing and your creation, and a lot of filmmakers, I think, are the same in the respect to, if I'm hired onto a project and I'm the main guy, then I expect to have the shots, call the shots in some ways, right? Like, we're doing this shot this way because we're doing this shot this way, but we're putting the music in here because we're putting these sound designs in because, and I think, no, I definitely agree with you in the respect to, it's very nice to have that control, but I also think there's room for, being in a position where you are a second shooter for someone, or you are, working as a more kind of, I'm in this role and this is what I'm doing, because it allows you to sort of, for me anyway, I've found when I've done it, and this also, is when you're shooting behind the scenes of people as well. But it allows you to sort of observe a little bit more, because you have less stress and there's less to worry about, and there's less personal responsibility on you to make sure that the job's done, if that makes sense, because you only just had to focus on, right, okay, we're rolling, so I'm focusing on what I'm filming, but then everything else you can pick up, like, oh, there was that funny moment where actor talked to a director or whatever, in that respect. I think a lot of people underestimate how much personally you can grow from that, but also business wise as well. Have you been on, you possibly may not been on projects like that, but have you found kind of a similar thing or not so much?
I agree. My problem, and that has to do with everything that I just told you, is for me it's really hard. Like for example, I am second shooter, I am filming behind the scenes, yada yada yada. Um, it's great and all, and I totally agree that you can develop great relationships and even sharpen your skills. But I feel like there has to be some kind of incentive. Like for example, money wise, like if I'm being paid a lot of money, then of course I do it. Like I don't care. Or if it's like a really big project, like obviously when I would be like being part of like a new Hollywood movie or just a Netflix TV show, then I could be like the PA and I wouldn't care because it's just like it's a really big cool project. And just being part of that, it's just awesome. But then it's like, and this is something that I'm really freaking sensible to right now, just because of everything that has happened, and that is just working for free when it's not 100% on my own terms. If I'm shooting a music video for free because I want to test some gear, because I want to shoot something, and I just want to shoot a music video, then that's fine. But like being part of another person's project without getting paid, for me right now is just I don't know. There's something about it because it happened to me so many times in the past. Like I was part of like a bigger project in the United States where I actually wanted to help a friend out and we were working for free. But then like it was planned to like help him with one interview, and then we ended up working 3 days on a busy set. And like the guys he worked for, they didn't even appreciate us being there like at all, although we were working for free. And I don't know. It was just I don't know. For example, another thing. I mean, that's definitely has something to do with ego, and that's not a good thing, and I know that. But it's like really hard to turn that off. For example, my friend, he was in film school, and like he was a slob, so he just like for his final projects, he didn't really like plan anything, so he just jumped on a bandwagon for another person's project and just like took a role. And he asked us if we could help, like because the more people they have, and like without being like arrogant or anything, but we just came back from LA with our cinema camera. We shot for with NFL players, and then they just shot this music video, which was totally fine. And then like the way he pitched it to me was like, because you have so much experience and it would be so cool to have you on set. And the people actually running the show, they completely ignored me. They didn't even thank me for being there. And the job they had for me was literally pushing the dolly. Like they asked me to push the dolly back and forth like on an 8-hour shooting day. And at this, I was just pissed. I'll be honest with you. Like, and they expected me to come back the next day too, like without even saying thank you. Like, and the way they just communicated with me was just like, all right, you push the dolly, go there, and you do this and that. And I don't know, man. I was just like, it's hard to actually turn off your ego. I just did it because of the friend of mine. I wanted to help him out, but I was so pissed like the entire day. I might have actually left early because I was like, all right, if you don't need me anymore, I'm gone. Um, and so it's hard. It's just like if it's an equal kind of level, um, then that's fine. But it also goes the other way around. So, for example, now my girlfriend is in Italy, so I don't have anyone to film behind the scenes with. So, over the time, a lot of people reach out to me and ask, like, hey, can I shoot behind the scenes for you? Can I do this and that? And when I ask them, most of the times they just don't respond, like, then they don't actually show up. But then, like, oftentimes I feel like I don't want to take advantage of anyone else either. So, unless it's another YouTuber. Like for example, I have another guy that's somewhat like on the same level, and he has a YouTube channel, and I film stuff for him, and he films stuff for me, and it's like a giving and taking. Then I feel comfortable with it. But if I have like somebody who literally works for free, like on a YouTube shoot, I feel like I need to provide value too. Like for example, if I'm shooting a music video and he wants to shoot behind the scenes, then he can learn something. But if I'm just walking around with a camera and like shooting some B-roll for some product and I want him to shoot behind the scenes of it, then I feel like I'm taking advantage of that person because he's not gaining enough value out of it, which might be untrue because maybe for him he does get the value he wants to, and if it's just hanging out. But I have a problem with just requesting or just taking advantage of that. But then on the other hand, I need that b-roll, so I also need that to be good. So I can't really say like, oh, it's fine, just do whatever you want, and then I don't end up with like anything on that day and it was all for nothing. So it's this kind of weird situation where I kind of rely on somebody, but I'm also feeling a little bit bad about not being able to pay him for it. And that's the thing in Austria, for example. I actually posted this in like one of the Facebook groups for Austrian filmmakers. It's like, hey, we are shooting a YouTube video. It was actually the video that went viral for like 200,000 views. Because I actually take pictures of my girlfriend, so she couldn't film behind the scenes. So I asked somebody, hey, somebody wants to come, hang out, like shoot behind the scenes. And literally everyone was like outraged because I asked them to work for free. And people were like, yeah, it's 800 a day. It's like, up to this point, I haven't even made 800 with the entire YouTube channel, and they were asking for like 800 euros to shoot the behind the scenes for that YouTube video. So it's like it's a weird, I don't know, situation right now.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's one of those things. Like personally, for me, it's more about being transparent, explaining what you need, explaining why you need it, and then explaining, look, I'm not in a position to pay you right now. I completely understand if you don't want to do it. That kind of thing, and just having that kind of conversation. I think setting those expectations between everyone is good, But I think if people, I shoot for free sometimes. I get paid to shoot sometimes, but from the same person, right? So it just simply, I think, comes down to coming to an agreement or coming to a term where you sort of can see benefit for each other. For example, if I'm going to be shooting for free for someone, then I say, look, it'd be great if we could collaborate. That's the agreement. It's a collaboration opportunity between me as a YouTuber and them as a YouTuber, right? It's not me as a commercial filmmaker and them as a commercial filmmaker in that context. If they're on a commercial shoot and they trust me to do behind the scenes, that's different, right? Because they're getting paid, so in turn, I kind of expect to be paid. If that makes sense, But it's about just sort of setting those boundaries and sort of understanding that and having that communication with those people. And I think that building a good relationship with other filmmakers is really, really important for every filmmaker, because as I've said as well, you might pick up tips and tricks that you wouldn't have even thought of by watching how they shoot, or by just being around them, or consuming their content, or whatever, or just having conversations with them in that respect as well. So I think there's definitely a lot of benefit, but I think that you have to be careful with doing it, so there isn't a miscommunication, or you don't bring someone out on a day and then they expect to get paid when you weren't planning to pay them, or they expected to get more than you can actually pay. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. I think that at the core is the most important part of that.
100% agree. But that brings me back to what I was saying earlier. Like, I literally don't think there's any other filmmaking YouTube channel in this entire country. I mean, there's one, and that's actually a pretty big one, Cinema 5D. Like, a lot of people know that. But they're like it's not really a YouTube channel. They're basically having a blog, and they're like literally just doing YouTube gear reviews. It's really dry, it's really informative, it's really technical, which is good, but it's just totally not like what I do, basically. But other than that, there's literally no other. And that's really kind of hard, because that's what I'm saying. Like, if I have another YouTuber and we collaborate, but there's nobody to collaborate with when there's only like some commercial filmmakers, or just some like extreme beginners. And that's also like, again, that's like kind of like coming from a high horse, and that kind of sounds shitty. But then like I get asked by a lot of people like, hey, can I film with you, can I do this? And then I look at the Instagram account or whatever, and it looks like they can barely hold a camera. So then like, I'm not in the position to like mentor people for free or whatever if I'm not getting anything out of it. Like, if I have like completely shaky, shitty B-roll afterwards that I can't use for any YouTube video, and then like I have to reshoot everything again, then I'm really not in the position to do that either. And speaking about the whole value giving situation, that's also something it's weird. Like, for example, like I said, I was a photographer before I was a filmmaker. And there was always this thing when you wanted to shoot a TFP, like time for pictures project, like basically just shoot with a model and nobody pays anyone. And then you wanted to get like a hair and makeup artist within that kind of realm. And they were always demanding you to pay them for their makeup. And that's something I never understood. It's like none of us gets paid. We're just doing this to further our portfolio, but the makeup artist always wants you to pay them for their makeup and reimburse them. It's like, who's reimbursing me for my hard drives, for my computer, for my cameras, for my memory cards, for my flash, or whatever? Um, and that's the same with filmmaking nowadays when you want to shoot a short film. For example, I would love to shoot more short films like the ones that are shot in LA and Las Vegas. But whenever you ask like actors, it's like basically, okay, if you shoot that, can you at least pay for my travel? It's like, why? I'm sorry, but why would I pay for the travel? I mean, you're getting something out of it as much as I'm getting something out of it. And quite frankly, without demeaning like any kind of um like acting job, but I'm like doing much more work because I'm scripting, I'm planning, I'm shooting, I'm editing, I'm distributing, all that kind of stuff. Um, so why would I pay for the actor? And that's something that like it's frustrating because I want to shoot short films, like especially now when Kevin James, for example, started his YouTube channel and he has like these like really tiny short films every week, and it's like it inspired me to do more like that. But then again, like I run into the problem of people not being able to speak English or not properly enough that I wanted to slap my logo on it. And that's one of the big things, because if I want to do something, I want to do it right. And like I said, it's just like a lot of the times with the fitness project, it's just I never released it. I never even started editing it because it was horrible. And that's the same thing. Like, why, if I want to shoot a short film, I want to make a good short film and not like, it's like it's okay. It could have been better if this and this would have happened, and then I'm not like doing it at all because I don't know. And I don't know. It's a weird situation, and that's why I haven't been as creative lately, because I feel like the circumstances are just, I mean, obviously that's, you can make everything out of anything. Um, but a lot of the things that I wanted to do lately are just, I don't know, just like the circumstances weren't really there. And especially with filmmaking and photography, there's always this misconception between like who pays whom and like, or just pay them at all, or what they're being worth being paid for. It's weird. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. No, to be honest, like I feel for you in that respect, because I know how nice it is to have kind of a network of people that, like, for example, if I'm going out to London, I can get such and such to do me a favor, or I can get such and such to come and shoot, or I know roughly what they cost, blah blah blah, whatever. Can I justify that, whatever. And if I'm making money, then I don't see why they can't make money at the same time. You know what I mean? And having that network is really, really nice, but it can be very difficult to not be, if you don't have that network and you don't have that, whether that's you don't have that network because of where you are in your career, or simply like geo like where you are, is very difficult to have that network as well. But I don't, personally, like the only thing I would think of from my perspective of how to get out of that problem, quote unquote, is just to, I guess, kind of, it's going to be one of these things where I think you have to like help people come up to the level you need them to be, if that makes sense. And that might be like from you that, oh, I don't really want to do that. And I completely get that. But I think it's going to be one of those things where, for example, say you took on or helped like a beginner, right? Or, a fan, whatever, right? Then you would at least then start having those people, right? Obviously, it would have to be the right person. Then it had to be like, you need to be able to trust them. But I think that's going to be the only way. Either that or move, which, in that respect, or find it's just a difficult situation.
I actually tried that like with 3 different people. 2 of them stole from me, and the 3rd person was like such a bad person, like character-wise, that we never talked to him again either. So I don't know if it's me, my surroundings, or my bad luck, but literally like one stole the camera, one owes me 10,000 euros, and the other one,
Oh
it's a funny
no.
story actually, because I don't understand people. Like, he was here and we were ordering food after like our shoot, because he was like our intern. And my girlfriend's allergic to a lot of things, so she ordered food and she got the wrong food because she couldn't eat it. And so she called there and was like, hey, can I get like a new burger? And they were like, yeah, sorry. And then he was, although everything was fine with his food, yeah, mine doesn't work either. And then he wanted like extra fries and extra drinks and extra kind of this. Like, he was literally like, scamming the food company for more stuff. And I'm sitting there as his potential employer, and I was like, you know what that looks like to me, right? Like, why? How can I hire you afterwards if you deal with those kind of situations that way and just like scam and take and take and take? It's just like, people are weird. Just I don't know. I really had like, but yeah, I totally get you. But the problem is this, and that's also like a really big issue in my career. I don't see myself like staying here for long. Like, I'm not happy here. Like, for several reasons. This is not like my culture. It's just like, I don't know. It's just not. Although Vienna is great for a lot of situations, and if you want to grow old and you want to get kids and all that kind of stuff, it's awesome. But for a creative person, for a self-employed person, like, Vienna is probably one of the worst places in the world. It's actually the second highest taxes in the entire world for being self-employed, and it's just like, it's ridiculous how much taxes you have to pay here. Um, so, and that's the thing, like, it just like getting an intern or getting somebody to really raise up in a country where I'm not wanting to stay. And then people ask me like, why don't you start doing weddings? It's not like I can just grab them from a tree because there's so many wedding work out there. So like, you have to build that relationship. You have to start advertising locally. You have to build a business. And I never started doing that because I don't see myself staying in this country. And that's like, it's probably one of the biggest issues I always had like in my career, is that I'm not happy where I am. And I mean that geographically, to to really invest in that, because it's also with filmmaking in general, like, it's hard to get local clients if you're not really rooted in the community and you're not trying to reach out in your community. And I'm not even trying to build that kind of community here because I'm not planning on staying here. But as long as I'm not actually somewhere else, it's really hard to start, developing this.
Yeah, it's this catch-22 thing. It's like if you don't love where you are, then you're not going to feel passionate about, helping it come up, with what you do. So, but then you don't have a network, and in that respect, and then but
And it's
yeah,
hard. Like,
it's this
in
chicken
my
and
mind,
egg
it's like, it's so
situation.
easy nowadays because we're so global. I mean, not right now. COVID-19 has shown us like the exact thing, but there was this
Mm,
one guy from Britain
mm,
actually, and he was like, "All right, I need a second shooter. He needs to have a C200," and we had a C200 at the point, and I actually knew the guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I can do it." It's like, but you're not from the UK, right? It's like, no, it's a 30 euro flight. I can be there in an hour. Let me just tell me when we get a contract. I sign it. No, that's too unreliable. Like, I can't really, like, the risk is too high. And it's like, I could literally be there in 3 hours. And people
yeah.
are, when it comes to that, like, they don't hire people outside their own local community. And like, obviously, like a company in Spain, why would they start like, hiring us? It just, just doesn't make any sense.
Mm,
So when it comes to like commercial work,
mm,
it's mostly where you are. I mean, then if you really have a big network and you get like, then obviously we actually shot like something in Las Vegas for a company here in Austria. It does happen, but the majority of the stuff you get is like locally. Um, and
yeah.
again, like, that's kind of a problem.
No, exactly, and I think, but I think that's understanding that from just a from a general perspective is really important to know where you're kind of growing your business or your video production company, or any business, knowing where your customers are or clients are in that respect. So yeah, I think that's really really important to know, when starting out as well. Is there anything that you wanted to cover, wanted to mention that jumps to mind? Because that's kind of everything I wanted to cover today.
No, I think we talked about a lot actually.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, what we'll do before we end off is, those who may not know of you, where can people find you? If people are looking to collaborate, that maybe, from England or wherever or however or whatever, where can they sort of, where's the best place to reach out to do that?
The best place to reach out is definitely Instagram, because it's just way easier with the DMs. And basically every social media platform, it's Monkey Pixels. I actually have it written on my head.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, that's website, monkeypixels.com. It's just, we're everywhere.
I really appreciate you taking the time and coming on and sort of giving some insight into, how you've worked, what you've done, what you wish you probably wouldn't have done, in some ways as well. So I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this time in this podcast and this chat in that respect as well. So thank you guys for joining me once again on this week's episode of the podcast. I hope you found and took value from mine and Damien Cooper's conversation. And I hope it was an enjoyable experience for you. And I really wanted to share this episode because I think it's really important to hear not just about the highlights and the kind of, the great moments of being self-employed and being a entrepreneur or a self-employed filmmaker, so to speak, but also the some of the decisions that, and some of the kind of leaps of faith that you have to do sometimes, and how they can sometimes not necessarily be the most ideal situation in that regard as well. But if you did enjoy this video and would like to see some other episodes, then make sure to click on screen right now. There'll be some up on the screen. And thank you guys so much for listening again, and I'll see you guys next week with a brand new episode with a very, very interesting client of mine who we're going to be having a longer form conversation with. But I'll see you next week. Have a wonderful week. And I'll see you on Wednesday as well for a brand new YouTube video. But podcast-wise, I'll see you next week. Have a good week. I'm going to go because otherwise I'm going to continue ranting. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very, very soon.